All right. So this is the Zoning Planning Development Committee meeting. It's 5:30 on Thursday, and we have Councilors Matthews Keene, Morganelli, and Flaherty here. Councilor Figge is a guest as a applicant, and former Councilor Babinski is listening in. All right. So public participation. Marianne, do you want to say anything?
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, well, no, I just wanted to mention that I did send you an email today, and I'd like to have the committee think about doing more with that moratorium on truck terminals. I've had people mention to me that they are also concerned about distribution centers, but I suppose some of the issues up here are just about the traffic in general and the emissions. That's why I sent you some documents. I mean, there's tons of that documentation out there about what it can do. And I'm worried about and concerned about backup and trucks and other traffic idling along South End Road in front of the school there. We know that that school is too close to the road. EPA even says that's a hazard, and the playground is out there. So I hope that we give it a little bit more thought and think about, since we're working on the master plan, that we probably would be good sense to halt doing some of these things if we're going to be working on putting together a better vision for the future of this city. And some of the things that we say we want to do and what we see for the city in the future, we could put things in now that just contradict and go against what the future plans are. So It's not a bad idea to wait, because we're taking on a big thing with this master plan, and it could come out to be a very good thing for this city overall. And I hope there's a lot of people that are ready and willing to give their input in the public too when that time comes to do that. So go ahead.
All right, and I think you'll hear as part of our discussion, we did talk about this at the last meeting, and we got an updated language from Jay that I think we'll talk about tonight before we do anything with it.
Great. All right. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
All right. All right. Nobody else for public participation? All right. Just for the record, Councilor Oniski joined us too. He's listening in. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes. And again, I haven't typed up the minutes from the last meeting, so we're just going to skip this and do it later. I don't have a person that sits here and takes the minutes for us, so I have to watch the videos and redo them. All right, item number 3 is petition for zoning amendments submitted by Councilor Figge related to tap rooms in industrial A's. We talked about this last time, and we had a couple of things to chase down. I've talked to Jay Vinsky several times, and Councilor Figge once or twice since the last meeting, and we came up with what I think is an okay solution that I sent the two of you today. So it adds a section about the definition of a tap room. So did you see that in your emails from me? So it's a definition of a tap room that addresses some of the concerns about people who were wondering what the process was and where their opportunity to speak was. So it says a tap room is a space that allows licensees who have received licenses from Mass ABCC under MGL 138, section 19B, C, and E, and further, who have, after a public hearing conducted by the Westfield License Commission, further received a vote for a positive recommendation for a Farmer Series pouring permit from the Westfield License Commission, and who have further received a Farmers Series pouring permit from ABCC to sell and allow sampling of alcoholic beverages that the licensee produces on the same premises. So that would be in the general definitions in the zoning ordinances. And then under Industrial A, section 3-130.2, use permitted by right, number 25, tap rooms. So it's pretty clean. Didn't have some of the other language buried in the Industrial A only. And I thought this would be useful later on if we want to put the word tap rooms in business A, business B, and core, so that it's separate from the restaurants and the other bars and things that are there. If we wanted to put tap rooms in several locations, this would make it easy for us. We just have to stick the word tap rooms in there. So I think that's clean. I think Councilor Figge is okay with that. He'll take it. It's clear that it's not marijuana. It's clear that it's not golf balls. It's clear that it's not all these other things. It's just strictly tap rooms. Jay and I chatted briefly today, and I'm sorry I didn't know about his father. So we chatted briefly about business A, B, and core, and why somehow this one got flagged when he was trying to put a tap room in industrial A. And it's because A, B, and C, or A, B, and core had liquor serving establishments as one of the by rights. In an industrial A, it only had restaurants. It didn't have anything about liquor in there. So that's why it got flagged in the first place. I was thinking after the last meeting, it had to do with the word restaurants, because he was telling us that the restaurants were allowed in all these other ones and that followed the same process. But it really, the reason we have existing tap rooms is because there is a special line in there that talks about liquor establishments in A, B, and core. So that's how we ended up where we are. I'd like to open up for discussion on any changes to this. I would really like to move this forward to L&O if we can. Councilor Figge said he would address the question of Councilor Mello. Councilor Mello sent us a question previously that she wanted to know what the process difference was between getting approved from the License Commission and getting a special permit from the Planning Board or the City Council. She wanted to see some kind of a chart, that would explain the difference to people. And I think that's a worthy goal, but I don't think we necessarily need to do that in ZPD. I think that's something that L&O can do, and they seem willing to do it. So I'd like to make that as part of our recommendation when we forward this to Councilor Figge later on, that he gets that question answered. So, but let's have some discussion. So Councilor Matthews King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Whatever I am,
yeah, I love that we're eliminating it to tap rooms. It makes it cleaner. It makes it easier to have this discussion. When we were trying to have this discussion and we were talking about golf balls and ice cream and guns and every conceivable, it was just so difficult. And this will be much easier to talk about. So I'm grateful for that change. I think it was a smart move. I still have a lot of questions though. I still have the question that Councilor Mello had, which is, I would like it spelled out what the difference is between going in front of license and going in front of planning. And I was planning on talking to the expert on that tonight. And it is unfortunate and unpredictable that we can't have this discussion tonight, but I really wanted to have that before we voted.
Okay.
And I had questions about the difference between a restaurant and a bar and like defining it. I would really want to talk to a subject matter expert on it before I vote. So I feel very, it's terrible and surprising and beyond anyone's control. I would feel uncomfortable voting on this tonight. I have remaining questions, and it's just unfortunate, the timing.
And I think
I want my questions answered.
Yeah, I think Jay Vinsky had told us that he doesn't know anything about the License Commission. He's strictly a zoning guy, so he wouldn't know what the procedures are at the License Commission and what their responsibilities and all that stuff are. We'd have to get that from Law Department or License Commission or somebody like that. So we can still do that while it's in L&O, because it has to go through 2 cycles in L&O meetings too.
Yeah, but I can't speak at L&O. Right, correct?
Well, yes, you can speak during public participation as.
Yeah, but that's not the same.
But it's not the same thing as engaging in deliberation. But you can during the 2 readings. Right? L&O is going to make a recommendation for reading, and we can.
I can't ask Jay questions once we bring it to the floor, correct?
It's up to Councilor Figge.
I'll be honest, I'm uncomfortable. I was coming here tonight fully prepared to bring it forward to L&O. That was my personal goal.
Right.
And I expected the subject matter expert to be here. I was going to ask more questions because I wasn't able to ask them last round because we were golf balls, and now we had this narrow focus, and I really want to do our due diligence. And I don't want to, we had this second meeting for a reason.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, we can't fulfill that without the subject matter expert here. That's my opinion.
Okay. Councilor Morganelli?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I can see Councilor Matthews Kane's point, but I do think we have the checks in place, and I think I'm comfortable sending this to L&O, and we can put some, some recommendations on that, or, for instance, we can refer a question to legal. When we refer it to L&O, we can refer it there as well, and have that answer given to L&O, and have have something so that L&O is updated on that process, and you do get your, so we do get all our questions answered. I think it's, I like how it's, focused on the tap rooms as well. And do you want to, I guess that's all I have to say about that. I'm in favor of what this says, and keeping the process moving forward, getting it into the hands of L&O with, recommendations for, questions to be answered by legal. And perhaps Council Matthews Kane can come up with those recommendations before we have that motion, or maybe you can make that motion, Bridget, on that. The other thing is, we haven't read this, and the public may be listening or may come upon this later. Would you like me to read this, Mr. Chairman, the definition of tap room?
I think I read it earlier, but.
Did you read the whole thing? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So there's just 3 items on there. So
Right.
It's very short. And I have a question though, before we get to Council Matthews Kane, but what in here makes it different than a bar? Just strictly a bar, not a bar restaurant, but
They
just
can
a
only
bar.
sell,
That serves
they can
alcohol.
only sell, sorry, they can only sell alcoholic beverages that they themselves produce in that same facility.
Okay.
So they
I
can't,
just wanted
like,
to make that clear, that so people that understand that that's what makes this different. So is that number 3? It says who have further received a farmer series pouring permit from the ABCC. Is that
no, the
distinguishable?
final sentence, to sell and allow sampling of the alcoholic beverages that the licensee produces on the same premises.
Okay. So I just wanted to make that point. That's all. Thank you.
And I think Councilor Matthews Kane has good points about the control and who gets these things. I'm just wondering though, if there is not the same that you would get during a public hearing for a special permit at the planning board, would that actually change any of our minds about moving forward on it? Like, I know that there is a difference. I don't know all the differences are, but I know that, a special permit has a lot more things on it than a license does. And would having that change your vote one way or the other in this case? Because other bars and restaurants don't have to go through and get a special permit. So now we're making it harder to get a tap room than we are to get a bar and restaurant that sells a lot more stuff. So go ahead, Councilor Matthews Kane.
Well, I'm thinking about the industrial A area in my ward, and it's surrounded by a densely packed residential area. And also, are the hours in industrial A the same as what the hours would be? I have so many questions left. I'm uncomfortable.
The hours for a bar
and Go, you can answer my question.
Sorry, the hours for bar are set by the License Commission. So
They
that,
are.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank
then you also have business A and business B that's surrounded by residentials with the same concerns. Right? That's, you abut the core district, and there's lots of bars and restaurants in there that have neighbors, and they don't have to go through the special permit process. So this is putting an extra burden on a tap room who doesn't sell the same kind of stuff as a full service bar would, right? If they're only brewing beer, they're not selling shots of Jack Daniels and other things, and people aren't hanging around for hours. These are, it's, go ahead, Councilor Matthews Kane.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you just said they're not selling shots of Jack Daniels, but if they have their own distillery, couldn't they do shots of whatever they're making? Correct?
But only, yes. Like Skyline, for example, makes a
Yes.
bunch of different things. Yeah.
Yes.
But if they make hard liquor there, then they can
then they
do hard
can.
liquor. Yeah.
Then they can do hard liquor. And I want, all right. So I'll ask the question of you, and maybe you can answer it. So I'm thinking about my ward. It's the DPW yard at the end of Sackett. is my industrial A. So somebody, and they're thinking about selling it. So this is definitely conceivable. They sell it. Somebody wants to build a huge, like a 3-story building because it's right along the river, and they'd have decks and they would, where's the driveway going to go? Are there going to be sound barriers? Are there going to be bushes? Does license, like who
No.
would control or limit what they could do
Site
Like-
plan approval.
for the building?
Well, because there would be a significant change to the building and the traffic and all that, it would have to go through site plan approval.
It would go through the planning board anyway, you're saying?
Yes, for site plan, not for the liquor license, but for the site. Yes, yeah. But I know your concerns are about traffic and noise and
Noise and
all that
hours.
stuff. Yeah. So those kind of things go through a site plan approval. And the only time it doesn't is if they don't change the footprint and they don't change the traffic.
Okay.
If there's, go ahead, Councilor Matthews-Kane. Yeah.
So they buy that and they're going to use it as is, and they're just going to have picnic tables and tents and lights. Can license control that?
No, you don't know.
You can't, Marion, you can't.
Yeah, can't jump. No, so, no, those things, that could be an entertainment permit, right? If it's an outdoor entertainment, if they're talking about putting music out there, that's a different animal than the,
What if they're
And
just no music, just picnic tables and lights?
if they change the footprint and change the use, then it probably triggers a site plan. We have in the,
Probably. See, these probablys make me.
I know, but it all depends, like, if they buy the building and don't do anything other than stick a still on the inside of it and use the same square footage and don't change the parking lot, it can come right through. But if they do any of those other dramatic changes, it's just like any other building in town, it would trigger site plan approval.
Okay, I guess that's maybe where my concern lies is they buy a building, they don't make any changes to the building, but it's a change to the use. And then there's all this open space and people are outside and it's noisy or the traffic increases. I'm concerned licensing can't put enough parameters on it. And these were the questions I wanted to ask Jay.
Sure. Yeah, and I get, yeah.
And I really want a concrete answer before, and I was fully prepared tonight to send this
Okay.
forward. It's only because of these circumstances. And my next question would be, what's the rush? What's 2 more weeks? Like,
Right.
why?
No, I get it. Yeah. Okay, Councilor Morganelli?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, Council Matthew-Kane, I think, if we get these answers from people on the License Commission, email them, call them, and speak to them in the next few days, in the next week, and we send it to L&O, and you can certainly vote no to send it to L&O with the recommendations. But I think if we send it there with the recommendations and to get the answers to those questions, and you are the person that you obviously want the answers to those questions. I'd like to see what they say too, and to see the plan of what License Commission has control over. Then L&O is more informed, and you've done your due diligence in getting those answers to your questions. We're still moving the process forward, and you can still vote no if you still don't feel comfortable when it comes out of L&O. So there's still another vote. I think our subcommittee is done with this right now. I really do. I think we've got three other members on a subcommittee on L&O that want to entertain this and look at it. And I think if we make the motion and have a vote with recommendations, I think we have done our due diligence. I really do. So.
And I also, go ahead, Councilor Matthews-Kane.
I just strongly disagree, because often when I'm asking questions, it brings up a new question and I can't make a motion or make a recommendation once it leaves this committee. All I can do is vote no against it when it comes out. So I'm totally uncomfortable with this. And it's only because of the unfortunate chain of events tonight. I was fully prepared to talk about it and make a decision tonight. And the change that you would like to see
if you don't get the question answered, is that this would be a special permit and a planning.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
So-
they can really vet everything. I'm not convinced yet they can. And I would like to make that recommendation or at least vote and say why I'm not voting for it. But I mean, there's three of us, we each get a vote. I just like to express my displeasure
Yeah,
taking it out of committee when it's just 2 more weeks. I don't
so
understand.
your motion is to hold it in committee for 2 weeks.
I'd like to make a motion to hold in committee.
Is there a
until we-
second?
I'll
second.
second it. I'll second it.
Okay. Motion hold in committee. Vote Council Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Council Morganelli,
Yes.
Council Flaherty, yes. Sorry, Ralph, we'll hold it in committee. We'll get those answers and we'll send it to you ASAP.
Yeah, it's
And
only.
It's just unfortunate circumstances.
It's
and,
unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, and I want to be fair to Council Matthews Kane. She does have questions. And some of the questions she has are similar to ones we receive from other councilors. So I think we'll take it up next week. I'll try to schedule a meeting before the next council meeting.
Yeah,
So-
I'll even
and
go to a
I'll work
special.
out-
I'll
I'll
do
work
it.
on Jay. I'm sorry about Jay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know either. I talked to Jay today by
Right.
email and I didn't know the circumstances. Otherwise, we would have.
Yeah, it would be
But
totally.
again, I want to reiterate that you said that Jay doesn't have the answers that Council Matthews Kane is looking for.
I
So,
don't think he's going to have the answers about license, but he will have the answers about
but that's what
site
she's
plan
looking,
approval.
right, but she's looking for answers for license. What do they have control over? So I really encouraged Council Matthews Kane to reach out to the License Commission members and ask them, given this ordinance, what do you have control over? Because that's really the answer you need to take a vote.
Can
I
we-
respectfully seconded your motion and voted yes on it. So I respectfully ask that you go to the License Commission members to get those answers, because Council Flaherty said Mr. Vinsky may not have all those answers. He even
Well,
said,
we could bring in the chair of the license commission as a guest to this meeting.
Yes, that's what I would prefer. Because oftentimes when we're discussing it, I think of new things that it's not like I just,
Okay,
that's how
but can we
brains
try to
work.
get the answers before we invite someone to this? You may get all the answers you need and they don't need to come to another meeting. They
Okay.
have their meetings and they do what they have to do. We don't really have, I think
Right.
it's necessary to invite them to this meeting if we can just reach out to them and get the answers we need.
Yeah.
That's like inviting the mayor to every finance committee meeting to ask him questions about
Okay.
every financial matter that he's put across through the council, every
Mhm.
request for money and to move money. And I mean, there's a ton of them on the agenda tonight for the city council.
so I went along,
It's not
tonight
necessary.
because of this too, I want to give you the opportunity. But I'm more than willing to pass it as is and let the, LNO to do that. I don't think there's going to be support on council for a special permit regardless of what we find out in the other category, because the special permit requirement doesn't exist for comparable businesses. So to put it on here is going to add an extra burden for these tap rooms. It doesn't exist for other tap rooms in the city that are in different zones or other things in the same zone, like restaurants. A restaurant at the river location would have a significant impact on that neighborhood, the same exact location. And it wouldn't necessarily require a special permit. It would just require a site plan. No, yes, Councilor Matthews King.
I just feel like a tap room and a restaurant are not the same thing, where drinking is the focus. And I disagree with saying they're apples to apples. I think they're apples to oranges. But I do
No,
see your point. I do
yeah.
see your point. I will
But
say.
bars and restaurants, bars alone, for example, already exist by right in many locations in the city, as long as they're approved by the License Commission. Right?
Yeah.
So, and also restaurants alone. So in the tap rooms that are already in, say, the plaza, and out, in the mill, those things already exist and they were approved without a special permit. So
And maybe,
I know where you're
there's-
going,
Yeah.
but Councilor Morganelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And maybe there's a trigger, or there are a few or several triggers to the special permit, or something that, and we could put something like that in there too. If this, then that triggers a special permit. But otherwise, I think Council Flaherty said it, it's bars just have a by right. And I don't think it's fair to have this other business not have a by right because it's because they brew it there or they make it there. I mean, I just don't think that's fair at all for the business person. I don't. That's it.
All right, so we
Move
can
on. Yeah.
figure out where we are. We'll move on. Ralph, we'll get back to you. Sorry. Okay. Item number 2 is the truck terminal moratorium. And we talked about this last time. There were questions about the duration of it and what types of buildings and facilities it applied to. So again, I sent out the email with the revised definition, the revised section. Jay had given me this earlier in the week. And then we discussed it a couple times, and I put the language in that says, it says regardless of where otherwise stated in the zoning ordinance, truck terminals, and that's where Jay stopped. And then I added warehouses and distribution centers in there, those 3-4 words, are a prohibited use with such existing uses remaining subject to the provisions and protections of section 4-10. Moratorium shall expire 180 days after the planning board's adoption of the new master plan intended to comprehensively study such use impacts, provided at least 1 year of local air quality monitoring data has also been collected. In no case shall the moratorium extend beyond December 31st, 2023. At such expiration, this section shall be deleted in its entirety without recourse to any further amendment and public hearing process. So it'll automatically terminate. We don't have to have another set of public hearings. That seems to me to jive with what we asked for from Jay before. There's still a question about whether warehouses and distribution centers should be specifically mentioned in here. The definition of truck terminal is comprehensive enough for me to make it sound like that covers a warehouse and distribution center, because it's basically, offloading trucks and splitting packages and repackaging and reshipping. To me, that's what a distribution center does. But in our zoning ordinances, unfortunately, warehouses, distribution centers, and truck terminals are all in different places and have different things go on. For example, we approve truck terminal special permits, but the planning board does the distribution center special permits. Even though the definition of distribution center isn't in our zoning laws, it's still in some of the zoning regs, but there's no definition of it. So that's why I put these back in here. The planning board asked specifically for these things to be listed as well, because they understand the differences in all the zones, and they wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, that the target of this is facilities that are used to truck stuff in and out and generate traffic. We're not talking about, for example, a warehouse on the back of a restaurant where a truck pulls up every day and unloads the fruit and it sits in the shelves or the refrigerator. That's not the kind of warehouse we're talking about. We're talking about a warehouse that's used for trucking and exchange of product, or sorting it and repacking. So my motion would be to pass this forward as is and let the public hearing process determine whether we need those other things in there. Because right now, this hasn't gone through the public permit process. This is our application for a zone change. So it's going to have to go through the planning board and back to the council for public hearings. Then it would come back to us, and then it would go to L&O. So there's plenty of time to figure out what to do with those few words that just determine exactly what facilities we're talking about. So, all right, Councilor Morganelli, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the way this reads, though, I mean, we're not going to no one can open up a new warehouse at all. I mean, what if they have just one truck trip a day, not even a tractor trailer, just a little box truck? They manufacture something small. Do you know what I mean? I think we just need maybe to make it even more specific that we're looking at large warehouses with many trucks or so. I mean, I don't know how you word that, but a distribution center, I understand that what the definition is there, but again, that's still, I don't think, specific enough, because we really don't want many truck trips, correct?
Right.
So
if we just left it truck
this is kind of
terminal,
shutting down business altogether until we, which I'm a little apprehensive about the language. I like including warehouses and distribution centers, but not in the way it's generalized there. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes. So originally this is the way it came from planning originally. And then there was a sentence about 5 trucks a day or 5 trucks a week. I forget which one it was to trigger it. The problem is that the truck terminal is a defined phrase in zoning ordinances. Warehouses and distribution aren't. But my mind, after reading the definition of truck terminal, was, well, that's obviously covers distribution centers. But then in zoning, we treat it as 2 different things. Like we treat truck terminals one way and distribution centers another way. So to me, that kind of implies there is some difference. And Jay and I were talking about it. He's recommending this, but the city lawyer is saying, oh, that might be too broad. And I thought it would be best to put this in the way it is, and let's have these public hearings and hear from more people about it. Because I agree, a warehouse in the back of a restaurant or for a manufacturer that only has 1 truck leave a week isn't really a problem.
No.
The ones we want to stop are the ones that have dozens of or more truckloads a day. But again, I just put this in here so we can move the process forward. It's going to have a public hearing in planning, and a public hearing in city council, then come back to ZPD and then go to L&O. So there's plenty of time to look at the list of facilities and then any other qualifying things you want to put on it, like the number of trips per day or per week. Yep, Council Morgan.
The original motion was for a moratorium on truck terminals, right?
That was what they asked for, yes. But when the
Okay,
planning
so why
weighed
are
in,
why are we changing that and adding warehouses and distribution centers? I mean, we can say truck terminals related to warehouses and distribution centers that entertain I don't know. I don't understand.
I know where you're
why
going.
we're
It's just
adding that. I really don't know why. We have the definition, like you said, of truck terminals, and that's the thing that we want to put a moratorium on is, all these trucks coming in and out and moving product, and that's what we want to put a moratorium on. So,
but as a distribution
the
center,
motion
let's say
was.
that Lowe's distribution center or Home Depot distribution center or C&S wholesale, are those truck terminals or distribution centers? Right,
It's
that's
just
the question.
Yeah,
Right,
because
so go ahead, Councilor Massaquet.
my understanding is the Old Dominion is a truck terminal, correct? Or truck, yeah, and
Well, what's
that's
the
very different than a warehouse.
Right.
And that's the legal definition that we currently have in our laws.
Well, I
So-
think if you read the truck terminal, I think it would cover C&S and Home Depot too, because they have product come in one door, they repackage it and stick it out another door, in smaller trucks to get spread all over the place.
Mm.
Same way with Lowe's, and the potential for Target. Target would take truckloads of stuff in, put it in all these racks and conveyors, and then package it up and send it to stores. So to me, that's a distribution center. But there's a lot of trucks there. So I think these questions can be addressed, though, during the rest of the process. I think,
Yeah.
the goal
I'm
would be to
thinking
kick this off and send it in the right direction, and then we can amend it through all those other meetings. Okay, Council Matthews King.
I am comfortable with it the way it is now because it will eventually come back to us. And I'm curious to hear what the other groups say and what we hear during
Right.
public hearing. I like the changes that were made. I like the air quality. I like the 120 days as opposed to the 30, because you're right. When we finish that master plan, we're not going to be able
Right.
to do anything. It's hard to do anything within 30 days. And I do
Right.
like the expanded definition. I just am curious.
And the air quality thing, we didn't mention that the air quality thing, for those listening, did get approved, and the city is going to get that study up and running pretty quickly. So, and all of it, from what I understand, the data from that will be publicly available almost immediately. So it's not like we have to wait a year to get data and then send it off to some scientist to interpret. It'll be an ongoing release of public information for each of the devices.
Yeah, that's monitored daily, and you can see that,
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Almost,
the frequency is, but it's
immediately.
okay. So Council Matthews Kane, are you ready to move it? Make a motion to move it as is, and then I understand we're going to make some edits in the future, Councilman.
Okay. I can make a motion to move it as is.
Is there a second?
Second,
Second. Okay, a vote. Council Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Council Morganelli,
yes.
Council Flaherty, yes. Okay, so we'll move this forward tonight. The tap room I'll announce is on hold tonight. Next item up is a ZBA. We did talk about this last time. Unfortunately, because of the chaos getting this agenda produced and the schedule and all that, this got thrown back on there. But at the last meeting, we talked about leaving this as is and scheduling a public hearing with the planning board and city council at the earliest convenience. And that's how this is written up here on the notes. If we want to discuss it anymore, I'd be happy to do that before we move forward tonight. So anybody have any changes or questions about that? No. Okay, so we'll just take a vote to do what's on the paper here. It says motion to schedule public hearings at the earliest convenience and leave in ZPD because it's going to come back to us after the public hearings. Okay, so
So
Council
moved.
Matthews Kane
Second,
moves, Council Morganelli seconds. Okay, vote Councilor Matthews Kane.
Yes.
Yes. Council Morganelli.
yes.
Yes. Council Flaherty. Yes. Okay, so I'll report that out that way tonight as well. Any items that were not contemplated at the agenda time? No.
Mm.
And I know each of you have topics that you're working on, and I'll talk to you before the next meeting. We'll probably try to get those back on there related to the sober living homes and the business permits. All right. And if you, Council Matthews Kane, if you talk to somebody on a license and they would like to come to our meeting, that would be great. If not, let me know and I can try to reach out to somebody who's a license expert. Because I know
Okay.
Mr. Vinsky said he really doesn't know what the license commission's scope and stuff is.
So you'd like me to invite,
Yeah, I think
someone-
if you can get some of your questions answered directly by them before the meeting, that would be great. But if not, then we can bring them into this meeting.
could we do both and
Yeah, if we can get somebody to come in.
if we can get somebody to come in? Okay.
And I would propose a Wednesday night before the council meeting, so we have a little bit of time. So I'm good with next Wednesday, same time. Council
Okay.
Morganelli, is that what,
Next week?
if you want?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
that's,
That seems to work in my schedule right now, so.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wednesdays
I
are
was
generally
just
pretty
gonna say, if Council Matthews Kane could send, questions to the license commission, if there's an email correspondence that we can refer to before the meeting, if you can
That's
get
true,
those
yeah.
into a document or whatever and just, you keep track of it. If they've two different members give you different answers and if it's satisfying you, just forward. You can't obviously send an opinion or I like these answers because of open meeting law, but you can forward them to us or so that
Yeah,
we
we
can
can't
see.
engage in discussion, but you can send me stuff.
Yeah, we can see them beforehand and and understand, what was talked about, what they can and can't do. And then we're a little more informed if they do come to us, and maybe CC Jay Vinsky on that too, so that he gets that information as well. And because it may bring up a question in his mind about something, and then he may reach out to the person that answered you and then get a different twist on it, maybe something that is helpful. So,
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, and you're gonna work on the business things, right, Nick?
The home-based business thing. Yep.
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 Okay,
And I did
Go
do
ahead.
all the research on the sober living homes. So if you want to bring that back out.
yeah,
could
I'll
talk-
put it on the next, okay.
Yeah,
good.
okay.
And Attorney Reed, she's gonna be tied up for today, at least for today, but she's probably back in next week and we can chase her down on any of these lingering topics as well.
Yeah, I already talked to her about sober living
Okay,
extensively. I can just report.
perfect.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Sorry,
No, you
Bo.
can't do
Sorry,
that.
I know. Counselor Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Counselor Morganelli, yes. Counselor
Yes.
Flaherty, yes. All right, so we got about only 20 minutes till our next.